This is Breakfast Central on News Central. Well, let's start off our top story in one place, and that will be South Africa. The death toll in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province that has been hard hit by floods and heavy rainfall and deluges over the last week has risen to 443. Provincial authorities have confirmed that at least 63 people are still missing and at least 13,000 households have been affected.
A state of disaster has been declared in the province. Rescue teams have been flown in from across the country to aid in search and rescue operations, and residents continue to look for their loved ones. Meanwhile, many goodwill organizations have zeroed in on the province to help with the state of disaster that thousands of people have found themselves in.
Well, one of these organizations is the Gift of the Givers, South Africa's largest disaster response foundation. Well, joining us this morning early, bright and early, is Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, to give us a bit of an update on what they have been doing in the province. Thank you so much for being here this morning, Dr. Sooliman. Well, let's quickly go straight into it. Just before we get into the assistance that you have been giving the province, what is the current situation on ground as we speak concerning the flood?
Good morning, Joe and Oluchi. Thank you for inviting me to your station, and hello to all Nigerians. Nice talking to you. It's very, very grim. You know, it's for the first time that we find something so grim after the acute disaster. When the disaster happens, everybody is crying and looking at the infrastructure, the inconvenience, the difficulty of going to hospitals. Doctors can't get to work. It's the shortage of staff. There's skeletal staff running, trying to take care of the patients. That's the first challenge. The second one, all the destroyed houses, people having been washed away, the trauma with that. Thirdly, the water system has been affected, so there's no water for the entire city. All those are challenges. But I don't think nothing could be as challenging as what we've seen in the last 3 days. And it's one of the reasons that we decided to bring in our own search and recover teams. Is no more rescue. The rescue phase is over. Unfortunately, it's tragic. But when we were doing distributions in different areas, somebody would say, you know, there's 2 people buried in this house. Somebody would say, my children are missing. Somebody would say, I can't find my grandfather. And then one of my team members was really, really touched when he went to a place called Inanda and he saw the people sitting on the edge of the river. And he said, why are you sitting there? It's dangerous. And they said, we're hoping that the bodies of our loved ones will flow down and we can catch them. And it was at that point we realized the anguish of missing persons, and it's far more than any other flood we've seen in our country. And that's when we decided to make search and recover teams, and we put out a nationwide message to say, if you're aware of anybody missing, or you know an area where they are missing, it makes it much easier for the teams to search. We have been flooded with messages. Person saying, I lost 10 family members, 9 family members. My children are missing. I can't find my daughter. And yesterday it was very, very sad. We found a picture of a 2-year-old child, and the 7-year-old daughter was found in the tree. And I can tell you now, without any hesitation, the death toll is going to sail way beyond 600, if not more than that. So on the ground right now, it's very, very difficult. It's somber. And the challenge is that the mud and the boulders and the rocks makes it virtually impossible to get to the people. As you showed in your footage, already people are helping dig, find, search, communities helping each other. But the difficulty with heavy equipment can't get into the areas the way that the terrains are, the narrow places to get in. And then even the sniffer dogs are getting confused, because when you get a smell in one side, the body could be 50 or 80 meters away. So it's a huge challenge to us. I don't think we're going to find everybody, unfortunately.
Such a devastating situation right there in KwaZulu-Natal. But Dr. Sooliman, can you tell us about the reports of looting that has been taking place from trucks and containers in areas that have been affected by the flood in KwaZulu-Natal?
Look, that's not a new occurrence. It's not something strange that happens. If a truck falls down on the road in South Africa, people go and loot it. If trucks get stuck for some reason on the road, people loot it. Like last night, I was coming home from Durban to my hometown, to Maritzburg. A truck had gone off the N3 on the side of the road. And there were security cars parked right by the truck from the time I left, and when I returned 7 hours later. The security cars were parked there, because that's a natural, normal phenomenon in South Africa. It's not natural, but it's normal in South Africa. Those kind of things that happen, which should not be normal in any case. And it's not reflective or indicative of the general behavior of the population. It's people who are opportunistic, who look at situations like this, and they give a bad name to the whole community. And the community as a whole are not, do not accept this kind of behavior. It's not acceptable to them. And even when looting takes place, like even when foreign nationals are attacked, it's not the support of the whole community. They get very, very upset when those kind of things happen. Because by far and large, they're very peaceful people who live in harmony, who want to follow the rules. They're church-going people. They're honest. They're integrity. But lots of people are on drugs. That's not an excuse. They're on drugs, and they will find an opportunity to do this kind of looting. But it's not indicative of the entire people.
Well, it's quite not a reflection of the society. I mean, taking a look at what you were doing and what other people are also joining to ensure that they can do to save lives. But now, Dr. Sooliman, tell us a bit about the work that you have been doing in the province. Where has the gift of the givers focused their efforts on?
The entire province was flood and affected. My Monday night, of course, it was totally disastrous. Tuesday morning at 5 a.m., the first call came in from a place called Tongat. And again, it was very somber. When my teams got called, the person who called them and said, you were here last week, and we were there last week, on the 5th of April, meaning last week from the time of the floods. And you said you gave a food parcel here. You gave food parcels here. One of the person that you gave a food parcel to, a granny, has been washed away with 3 of her grandchildren. And our teams decided to start there. It took a long time to go through all the affected roads, but we got there, and it was a very somber mood. At that point, they had found the lady, the granny, and 2 children, and the third child was found much later in the day. The people that we assisted with food parcels the week before, on the 5th of April, at that point, were all old people, pensioners of minimal means, and no young people to support them. They were distraught, full of anguish and upset, and hurt and afraid. The water levels rose 1 meter within a very short space of time. So we started off helping there, and then a more affluent area called Abshloti, where people are well off stay. But they were cut off completely. They had no drinking water. And we had to take drinking water, but go down the side of a mountain and get the whole community to help us get water there. From there, we went to Durban, and from Durban to we tried to get to Isipingo, which is only 15 minutes from Durban. It's where all the containers we're talking about were floating. And we took, for 2.5 hours, we couldn't find a road to get there. And we came back and did other things. But to answer your question, we have been going between Pietermaritzburg, Hillcrest, Pinetown, New Germany, Claremont, Median Hill, Thousand Valley, Inanda, Amlazi, KwaMashu, Isipingo, Tongat, Verulam, Phoenix, Central Durban, Kingsway, all the areas in Inanda, we've been assisting. And the assistance is very simple. People are in halls, they need hot, nutritious meals, so they're given bulk food to cook for themselves. They're given bottled water, mattresses and blankets, sanitary pads, diapers, hygiene packs. Some of the people who can manage to go back to their homes are given food parcels. The big challenge is going to be now, of course, we brought in search and recovery teams, which have been busy since Friday, recovering bodies. There's a team coming to Maritzburg, my hometown, this morning. Unfortunately, yesterday, we lost 2 police people. A diver went into Hanley Dam and drowned. The dog that jumped in to save the diver also drowned, and another police person also drowned. I think a wall fell on that person. So we lost 2 rescue personnel. But our teams are there. We've increased the teams. We had 4 coming from Limpopo. We got 13 that came in yesterday from Free State. We had some from Gauteng, and we need to add more. We will add more. So we're very involved in that. The biggest challenge now is, and we need people to go back home if they have a home. If they don't have a home, we're prepared to provide the building kits for people to start rebuilding their shacks, but not on the same ground. It has to be on higher ground selected by government. And then they will all require food parcels. We got 5,000 food parcels ready for them. And they will need hygiene packs. And the children will need school uniforms, stationery, and school bags if they've lost them, if they're washed away. And finally, of course, some of the schools that have been damaged, we will undertake to repair them because children cannot sit at home. We've lost 2 years of learning with COVID.
It is quite a devastating situation. No doubt the government of South Africa do not take your support for granted. Now, according to a report, Relief for Fund for Small Businesses, where Small Business Development Minister Stella Ndabeni Abraham had launched a relief scheme for small businesses. The minister came out to say about 10 million rand will be made available to informal traders. Now, can you tell us what your plan is, especially for this week? Now, this is a new week. We don't understand that protests have even been broken in some regions where police tried to disperse the protesters who were coming out to let people know that, look, all is not well, even though we have survived. What is your organization planning on doing this week?
This week, as I said, the focus is still on search and recovery, and I'm hoping that we can speak to communities to say, go home, go back home, because nobody wants to live, enjoys communal living. It's not private, it's not personal, it's too public. and it's not dignified under the circumstances. And all it requires is a piece of land, and the people who build informal settlements, who build their shacks, they can set up their home in 4 to 5 hours and they do it themselves. They don't ask for much. They have very small or meager requirements, and they're very content with little. Give them the building material, give them a food parcel and a blanket, they're quite happy. They'll be back to how they were the day before the floods. That's the part, we can get lots of people settled again. Small business, we did that during the July unrest. We had received quite a few millions, from Industrial Development Corporation, and we assisted a lot of people putting them back in business. We have optometrists, we have doctors, we have small business people, we have bigger business people, and we put in a lot of money that was given to us both by corporates and the IDC, the Industrial Development Corporation, which is a government facility. In what the 10 million made available, most of the shops that have been affected are smaller shops, and yes, they will succeed and they'll buy some stock and put up. They don't require much in terms of infrastructure and furniture. They can get back to business. We need to get everybody to start trading again. We need people to be self-sufficient. And the other big thing is going to be, is there enough money for funerals? Because I got some questions yesterday with very good points. Somebody said, what if the entire family is washed away? Who pays for the funeral? The government has made some announcement, but will it reach everybody? So we may need to put up some funding for funerals for people, who just have no means. They've lost all their possessions. They've lost children, they've lost adults, and some of them have lost the whole family member. So some funding will have to be made available for funerals so people can have a dignified burial. Schools are starting, in a day's time. And some of the children are asking, do we go back to school when we haven't found our siblings and we haven't found our parents? There's a lots of questions and a lot of lots of difficulties right now, and sort of facing the nation in various ways. And the other thing is, foreign nationals who are here, who came in illegally, or changed their identity, have passed on, and now their families are asking for the bodies, but they got different names and they came in illegally. How do you deal with that? Those are things that the government has to sort out in the next few days.
Well, thank you so much, Gift of the Givers founder, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central and helping us to see a deeper insight into what South Africa is really going through following the floods. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much for your time.